Hi, my name is Richardo Jackson, CEO of Campbell Health Solutions. I just wanted to hop in here before the show begins to let you know about our Tuesday late night clinic. Basically, it's every Tuesday from 5 to 9 p.m. by appointment only. We do HIV testing, primary care, wellness checks, STD screening, and treatment. So just give us a call at 561-208-6595 to schedule.
Good evening and welcome to Positively Positive, your place to go for information about HIV. I'm Susan Lee Mintz, your host. I will tell you right up front to get your legal pads out because we're going to talk legal and the law, and that is changing as we speak. Positively Positive highlights people, places, tells stories, and one person at a time, one show at a time, we try to remove the stigma associated with HIV. Still exists. And until they find a cure, or until I die, literally, I'm not stopping. We are going to talk about it. We're going to highlight people. We're going to talk about organizations. We're going to talk about everything. And if you have just one little thread in your life, one little component that you want to share about what your organization's doing, what resources you have. It doesn't have to be the whole organization regarding HIV, but it might be one facet that you've had to discuss. So bring your stories on. We want them. We love stories. People relate to stories. So Positively Positive, that's what we do. We highlight people and places. And even though it's Palm Beach County or it's South Florida, a lot of the information we give you can be shared all over the country because what you learn here just might be something that you'll want to take to your health department or somewhere else because it's all so important, especially in these times. We have to share information with each other to combat HIV, the stigma associated, and when our brothers and sisters of the LGBTQA plus community are under attack. So hang in there with me. We have Legal Aid of Palm Beach County on tonight, a returning guest. She's going to be on. She could be on every month the way things are happening. Some of the services: domestic abuse, sexual battery, elder abuse, HIV rights, marriage equality, marriage between two men or two women. What do we have more? Your HIV, your housing and taxes and immigration and veterans. And we're also going to talk about Ryan White and the funding that's happening. So I think I got a lot of this in. Oh, by the way, it's free because there's a lot of volunteers that are doing their time as lawyers helping our community out. So, I think I covered everything. Without further ado, I am going to say, Kim, Rommel, Enright, you come on in.
Yay! Hi, Susan.
Hello, my friend. We meet at the Care Counselor online. Did I do a good introduction, getting everything in?
Well, almost. We do a few more things than that, but you covered some of them. Yes.
What are some of the things that you'd like to specifically, in the time we have, what is important that people of legal aid in Palm Beach County, tell us what is important to you that you want to talk about in the time we have?
Well, so much of what we do, I think so much of what we do, from representing children to seniors, our health programs, the Ryan White program, the domestic abuse. We care for so many different disenfranchised groups, underserved groups in Palm Beach County. I think that what the services we provide are vital to the health of our community, health and well-being. It's really, as you referenced, Susan, these are unique times. They're difficult times. We struggle on a daily basis with how to provide the services we need to provide with the cuts that are coming from the federal government. Things change every day. For instance, we have, you mentioned housing. We have a fair housing program. Shortly after January 20th, we got a message from HUD that said, okay, you can't use our money anymore to represent individuals who are considered LGBTQ. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just figure out other funding streams to use to represent those individuals in fair housing cases. Then I'm going to say a couple of weeks after that, we got a letter on a Thursday saying, oh, by the way, as of yesterday, we're no longer funding your fair housing program, to the tune of, I think, $500,000. And so thank you very much. That's not a priority for us. That, of course, went into the court system, as are many of the decisions that are happening on the federal level are going through the court system. A federal judge put a stay in place, meaning that the federal government had to continue giving us the money that they'd already promised they were going to give us so we could complete the services to the individuals that we were serving. Not sure we've seen that happening yet, but we move forward undeterred to make sure that we provide services. We have funding streams that have given us restrictions about undocumented individuals. So we're having to figure out ways to represent them without using those funding sources that have restrictions on them. It's causing us to be quite creative in our delivery of services. As you know, I work not in our Ryan White project, but I work very closely with it. I was one of the attorneys that started our Ryan White project back in 1992, 93, 92. No, 93. So, that program is very near and dear to my heart. There are some things happening on the federal level that are affecting those funds to a certain degree. We don't know. We don't have any reason necessarily to think that the funding through Ryan White is going to be affected in the long run. But the problem we're facing now as we sit here tonight is that we don't have a budget. The federal government does not have a budget. So they're fighting over that. That in and of itself has a lot of issues that we're watching and we're concerned about with the Medicaid and the Medicare and some of the things that are happening in that. They changed the bill before it passed out of the House to prohibit the use of Medicaid. I want to say Medicaid, I think, for gender affirming services. It was originally just for minors. They took out the word minor, so it's for all transgender individuals. In addition to that, the Ryan White grant money that's supposed to be coming down right now, where we haven't gotten a full award yet because there's no budget. We don't know what the ultimate amount they're going to give Ryan White is going to be until they pass the budget. So they're parsing out payments, partial awards is what they call them. And they're parsing that out because they can't make a final, they can't give us the final money because we don't know what the final budget is going to be. Everything is very much up in the air, but those services are critical to the people in our community. It provides healthcare. It provides health insurance coverage, money to cover their health insurance. It's case management. It's medical case management. It's dental. It's so much, so many services that we provide in Palm Beach County to individuals that, It's a scary thought to be sitting and thinking, well, what's going to happen? What is the final budget going to be? Are there going to be cuts to Ryan White? Are we going to get a final distribution? Are we going to have to figure out how to make more out of less money? We just don't know. And that's what I think the instability and is scary. It's just been since January 20th, one thing after another it's one thing and then it's another and then it's different and then it changes, and trying to keep up with that makes your head spin. It's just a lot to deal with.
So legal aid in Palm Beach County, it's not specifically just for HIV or AIDS, or is it?
No, our Ryan White project is, but our office is huge. We have about 130 employees, probably 80 of which are attorneys. And we, in addition to our Ryan White project, we represent children in dependency court. We represent elders in many kinds of different cases. We represent victims of domestic violence. We help people with their immigration status. I'm going around the office in my head. This is how I always have to do this. We have a family law unit. People will be so upset with me that I don't remember what their programs do. The fair housing. Yeah, we have a lot of a veterans program. We have a fairly new, very robust at the moment veterans program. And we do a lot of things out in the community. We have, we work with a lot of community partners in providing services, legal services of all kinds across the community.
So the funding in general for legal aid, is it in general they're cutting the funding, or is it specific for the certain programs?
The ones we get a large amount of money from right now. We get a large amount of money from what is an organization called Funding Florida Legal Aids, which is the Florida Bar Foundation. It used to be the Florida Bar Foundation. And they receive money, it's called interest on trust accounts, from lawyers' trust accounts. And there's been a lot of money, so we get a lot of that money. That money does have some limitations on it, meaning we can't represent individuals who are undocumented. But generally speaking, we can use that money to provide a lot of services. We have many federal grants. We have a low income tax clinic. That's a federal grant. We have our HUD, or fair housing unit, is a federal grant. We have 2 domestic violence federal grants. Ryan White is a federal grant. I think those are the ones that I most recall being our federal money. And those are the ones that are just kind of like, okay, what's going to happen next? Where are we going with this? So those are the ones we are keeping the closest eye on because of the instability at the federal level with the budget and, what they want to fund and what they don't want to fund. And yeah.
And you can't function without a budget. No agency can really.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. And about the lawyers, so anybody in Palm Beach County can go through legal aid and get services. Do they have to qualify? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, each one of our units has a different qualification. So if the program is funded by the Florida Bar Foundation, there is income criteria. So you have to make a certain amount of the federal poverty guidelines. In general, overall, we do look at that. Some of us who are not, for instance, the work I do with the LGBTQ community is not funded by any particular funding source. So I can basically code that to a general revenue code in our system, and I can do that work. And I have more flexibility in the qualifications of folks. Like I do a lot of transgender name changes, and I have the ability to, be more flexible with my income. Domestic violence has different income standards. Elder law is an age requirement. I believe it's 60 and over. There's no financial guidelines for that one. So it's a little bit different. Ryan White, of course, they have to qualify through the system that Ryan White uses for the clients. So it's a little bit different with each of our programs, but generally speaking, there's what I consider to be the working poor. So we try to help people as best as we can without getting in trouble with our funders. So we're always looking for funding streams that are unrestricted, that don't have any criteria or restrictions to them, so that we can help as many people as possible.
So when we put your information up, so here we go. So very prophetic. So if they contact you and they don't qualify in a program, or they don't meet a certain criteria, will you be able to channel them to another facility or resource or some other way to try to accommodate them?
Yes, we try very hard. We don't like to be in a situation where we just say, no, we can't help you and have a nice day. So we try to find other resources that may help people. We also have attorneys who are on what's called our reduced fee panel. And so if somebody is over our guidelines but really can't afford to pay an attorney, we have attorneys that have volunteered to take a reduced rate from folks, make payment plans with them, really work with them to make sure that they can get the services they need, at a reduced rate. So we work again with a lot of community partners that we do a lot of referrals back and forth and all around town, just trying to make sure, people get services, because at the end of the day, we can't represent everybody, but we try, like I said, we try really hard not to send people away without some other potential resource. That's just important to us.
And the lawyers, they volunteer their time?
Well, not our staff attorneys. We all get paid, probably about a third or a half of what our counterparts in private practice get paid. So it's a choice. We make a choice to dedicate ourselves to this. We do have a panel of about 400 or 500 attorneys in Palm Beach County that do handle cases on a pro bono basis, meaning that if the person qualifies for us, or maybe right on the edge, and we can't do it in-house, we have a good number of attorneys in the community that will provide the services completely free as a referral through us to our pro bono panel. So we have that as well. And they really are a godsend. Our pro bono attorneys are.
So there are some nice lawyers.
Yes.
So there are some nice lawyers, right? So let's get the point across. There are nice lawyers. There are good lawyers. Not all lawyers are terrible and they get a bad rap. There's a lot of good ones. And Kim, you're an attorney, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How long have you been an attorney?
I've been an attorney since 1992. So 33 years almost, all at legal aid.
All legal aid. So you've had the same position, or you've worked yourself up to where you are?
I joke that I've worked in more programs in our office than any other attorney. I've worked in our juvenile program. I started our Ryan White program. So I've represented kids. I've represented individuals with family law cases. I've helped out elder law with eviction cases. I've done domestic violence restraining orders for our DV department. And now I run the pro bono program, as well as handle some cases that I get to pick and choose what I want to handle. So
what a blessing. What a godsend you are. I'm so glad when we met. The other thing, though, is getting back to the Ryan White funding and the fact, Ryan White, tell that most of our audience, the people who watch the show, know about Ryan White. I mean, you got to be under a rock with HIV not to know about Ryan White.
Yes.
So the main thing is, though, just talk about a little bit about Ryan White and how it all started, and then the funding, how that started?
I remember before we had Ryan White funding and we would get money from the state, but the story of Ryan White, the boy, really caught the attention of the world, and people in the entertainment industry. And I think, of course, that shone more of a light on his situation and his passing at such a young age, because that was so many years ago, and it was before we had all the medicines that we have now. I think that was such an impetus for so much of what came after and what happened. And it was at that point that the federal government was like, okay, well, we need to do something about this, because it was very much a crisis at that time. People were dying a lot, and it was, we needed, as much from a compassion standpoint, it was a fiscal decision as well for the federal government to say, we need to provide support to keep folks healthy, and to provide services to keep them healthy, and to provide the medicines once the medicines started coming out. So back in the day, it was a much broader funding. We actually got money to do more things back in those days with the Ryan White money, to provide more support services. But it was such a vital need in the community, especially back at that time. And then now that we have the medications, making sure people are getting their medication, that they're taking their medication. And then that kind of leans into the whole prevention part of it, and the EHE, ending the HIV epidemic, money and situation, which is really, at this point, there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with that. I had somebody pull for me today that the administration has moved to eliminate over $1 billion in funding for the CDC's Division of HIV Prevention, which is going to be cuts to testing, cuts to PrEP, cuts to surveillance. It's horrible, and it's scary, and it's frustrating, and I think that is something that could really, really affect. And it's so, I was going to use a bad word, but I won't. It's so backwards, I mean, it's like, we need to put so much money into prevention because we want to stop things before they happen. And then you have all the other medical expenses on the other end. So it seems like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, but what I can't explain what is happening.
No, and I'm not working for an organization. It's backwards. It's stupid. It's wrong. It's hurtful. It's mean. It's awful. There's no other word. That's just it. The rich are getting richer, and the people who need the services the most are getting just swept away in this tsunami.
Well, the Medicaid, that's becoming a really, really big issue. If this new budget bill goes through, we're going to see significant cuts to Medicaid and Medicare now as well. That was supposed to be off the table, and now we're seeing that might happen. And that's going to affect, like you said, primarily lower income individuals. And it's sometimes I'm like this, speechless. I'm just speechless. I look around and I'm like, I feel like I'm, living in some sort of horrible dystopian nightmare. And when am I going to wake up? When is this going to stop? I mean, like you said, the meanness, just on the first day, I want to say on January 20th, and I have a copy of this executive order. It's on the front of my office, and I have a big red circle and slash through it because it ticks me off so much. But the first day, I want to say on January 20th or 21st, he signed an executive order 14168 called Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. And all it was a bill to disenfranchise and punish transgender individuals.
Yeah.
Like why?
Such a small amount. Even that was in California too. They say, like a teeny percent are involved with this issue, but they blow it up as if this is it's absolutely, it's a meteor coming. It's going to destroy Mother Earth. The other than funding, which is a big one with all agencies, doesn't matter where you are, funding. What would you say? Because Palm Beach County is so diverse in its demographics, and HIV doesn't care where you live, who you are. I mean, it doesn't. But other than the funding issue, because our audience is all over the country at this point, what would be the top, let's say, 3 areas that you find the most challenging right now to deal with? That's being under attack. I know the LGBTQ+, they're always under attack. But for your perspective, what of your services is having the highest incidence of issue?
I would say 3 in our office would be the highest. One is the housing, the fair housing, because that is all about making sure that people are given the opportunity to get housing when they might be discriminated against. Anything involving any kind of discrimination is like, we just don't care about that on the federal level. So we were talking today about going to put up a table somewhere and table an event. And, the person who ran our who runs our fair housing program, was like, maybe we shouldn't, based on what's going on with HUD, table at that particular event. So housing, anything, having to deal constantly with, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are we going to, do we need to take that out of our documents, or do we need to change names of things? So far we're really like holding our ground, but legal aids in general are on alert, because sometimes what we do can be twisted to make it sound like it's some kind of a terrorism thing, or it's all DEI, and we represent bad people, and so we're always on kind of high alert with what is happening around us. I think probably the one that's besides me with the LGBTQ and my transgender clients, which have been incredibly
victimized,
victimized, absolutely, is our immigration program, and trying to, people are afraid. I mean, people who are here even legally are afraid. We have staff that are here legally that are afraid. I live in an area where they in the last month or so, they've been pulling over landscaping trucks, pulling people out and asking for their identification. And, it's just a really scary time. We work with organizations. We try to help families with documentation and documents that if for some reason they are pulled and sent off somewhere, that the children who are born here, who at the moment are natural born citizens, that they have documentation so that somebody can take care of them if their parents are snatched, off. And, it's just making sure people aren't afraid to come to our office to get the services that they're entitled to. It's really just been sad. It's unspeakable. It really is. And, my clients, and now I've got a couple judges that are really pushing back on the name changes, and it's just been very frustrating. The laws have changed. The documentation that my transgender clients were able to get before, they can't get now. It has just since I started, I mean, I've always worked in the LGBTQ community for as long as I've been practicing, but I really started working in the transgender community probably about 6-7 years ago, and how things have changed from that point to today are mind-boggling. It is a complete turnaround from, you know, where we were even just 6-7 years ago, where people were able to, you know, change their gender markers. They were able to change their names. There weren't a lot of these questions. And yeah, I would say those are probably, you know, the housing, fair housing, anything DEI, our immigration, and our LGBTQ and trans are probably the ones that, you know, we're most hyper vigilant about at this point, trying to make sure that those communities are served.
So you don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen, and you're not a computer. I mean, you can't rearrange your brain that quick and even get to people that quickly. So it has to be getting very, very frustrating.
Oh, it's like, it's on a daily basis. It's like we wake up, some days I'll wake up and I'll be like, what kind of fresh hell am I going to have to deal with today? It was really, and especially at the beginning, like when it came at us so quickly right at the beginning, I was just a mess. I was a mess. I would come home from work and I'd be like catatonic. It's like, I don't even know. I did another executive order came out. I can't read any more of these. And it's become almost more insidious because it's not always so in your face. Like I get information from different sources that I don't think are publicized really well, you know, out in the open. And it's very frustrating because I think if people knew everything that was happening, and all the decisions that were being made and changes that were being made, maybe people would wake up and, you know, say enough.
Well, you know, it's like mold. Just because you see it doesn't mean it's not still all over the place. And even if you don't see it, it can be all over the place. I think that's a reference that I would use for today. You don't know where the mold is anymore. It's everywhere. Insidious is a great word. It really is. And the other thing is do you also have a branch of legal aid that deals with obviously substance abuse?
Not so much directly. I think that is an issue that kind of touches on a lot of our different programs. Okay. Especially I think with our veterans program, we may have some of those issues come up in that community. I don't see a lot of it with mine. I think probably in the juvenile programs, you're going to see some of that as an issue as well. But that's one we've not had to deal with too much that I'm aware of at the office.
And what about travel? Do you have a branch that deals with travel? Is that just another separate entity?
That's interesting because that kind of, I think, affects a lot of us. For instance, somebody was referred to me who is a parent of a transgender child, and they are going out of state to get their treatment because you can't get it in the state of Florida, but other states are more, you know, open in getting it. And we had a very long conversation about traveling and the travel documents and how, you know, what documents are needed when you're traveling with a minor, and, you know, are the police going to be, you know, waiting for us when we get back? And I mean, it's that bad that's a bunch of a scary time. And it's like, you know, I mean, I tell you, there's no legal basis for somebody to be waiting for you at the airport, but I mean, I can't promise anybody anything these days.
No.
Somebody gets a wild hair and decides, you know, we're going to target you. You shouldn't be doing this. And it just, yeah. So we're
and that's the difference, is that you can't predict anything, and therefore you can't pass that on to your clients. They can ask you a question that 10 years ago you could have given a definitive answer to.
Mm-hmm. I could have given him a definitive answer a year ago. I mean, it's like I have a case in front of a judge, and I would not have been able to predict how this case was going to go because it went completely differently than the last time I did one in front of her. I just was like, well, I didn't expect that, and it's so I have to tell my clients, well, on any given day, I just don't know what's going to happen because everything is so fluid and changes so much, and we don't know and we can't predict, and we can do our best. But it is rough.
And with the stigma of HIV, there's the stigma of mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the times that we are in, there's never been a better time to talk about HIV or mental illness, because many of your clients that you serve, they probably are going through such fear and doubt and chaos and instability if they weren't mental before. This society will bring out more mental illness. And that's what bothers me so much, is that you're trying to remove one stigma, but you're putting on a couple of more. How can you remove the stigma of HIV? You talk about it. You do groups about it. You start having media attention about it. But underneath there, the mental health, no one's talking about that either. Do you have a mental health branch of that, of legal aid, or you refer to, how does that work?
Yeah, we refer folks to other places. We don't have, we are very fortunate, I will say, that we do have social workers on staff. So within some of the individual programs, we have social workers who can assist the families, right, specifically in getting the services they need. Our Ryan White program has a social worker in it, that may have gotten lost. We did. That could help get the services that they need. In our children's programs, we have social workers. In our Ryan, yes, we do have Ryan White social workers, because I know Kathy's one. So we have social workers in Ryan White. So we do offer not direct therapy, but definitely offer another resource for support for the individuals or the families. Our relative caregiver program has a social worker. So that's a fairly new, resource that we provide, that I'm going to say within the last 5 to 10 years, we've actually brought on the social workers, and it's been a nice complement to the legal work, to be able to send the families, to help the families get the mental health services and the other things that they need. And the social workers are so good about really figuring out what folks need and helping them, more so than some of us, the attorneys. So.
And what about the drug assistance, the ADAP program, or again with Ryan White? How does the funding, do you have a specific area for funding, or is that another program that you're not involved with?
That is another program we're not involved with. We do have a medical legal project, which Ryan White falls under, but it is an attorney who goes out to the clinics and assists individuals in the clinics with whatever their legal needs are. So, if people are at least getting their services through one of the public health clinics, they have access to us directly that way as well.
And do you think that a lot of the services that Palm Beach County, that legal aid, that there are other areas in the country that don't have anything like we have? I mean, Palm Beach County in South Florida is a mecca. It's what is it? The size, it's the epicenter for crazy. It's also the epicenter for incredible.
There are legal, at least in the state of Florida, there are legal services all around the state. Not many of them outside of, Orlando, Broward, Dade, are as robust as ours. When you get into the rural areas of our state, the services aren't as available as they are in the more central cities. So I think that there's a disparity, because a lot of times those folks will be impacted significantly during this administration, and those are the folks that are probably going to need extra help. And unfortunately, there's not as the services available to them aren't as full as the services are in the larger urban areas, unfortunately.
And immigration, we touched on it, but that's got to be a very big issue in South Florida also because of it in Palm Beach County. So you have your Spanish translators and your Creole, and you must have, is that separate people who are employed, translators? And
most of the support staff in our immigration program are Spanish speakers. We have also, I think, one or two Creole speakers in the office, not in immigration, but they're available for translation. My program has our intake paralegal is Spanish speaking. So we do have our immigration staff is very they're very bilingual. We have actually 2 of the 3 attorneys are bilingual. And I think all the support staff in immigration are bilingual as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is, being in the senior sector, elder abuse and seniors are so left out. It's in so many. Everybody thinks that every senior has a daughter and a son or grandkids and somebody to take care of them. Seniors like myself, there's nobody. I mean, if I don't be proactive with my health and be proactive with everything I do, seniors are shut-ins many times. They're alone and isolated. How do you get to them? How does senior care work?
It's interesting because we get a lot of senior clients, and I'm not entirely sure how we get them, but I do know our elder law program is always busy, and they always have intakes going on. And I think they get most of the referrals probably through other agencies, the Area Agency on Aging, the Department of Children and Families, the elder abuse folks over there send cases to us. So we get the cases from everywhere in our elder unit. A lot of what, we see a lot of the elder abuse, usually by family members. When you talk about kids and grandkids, we're having to deal with people taking advantage of older individuals and their money and their houses and things like that. We just started in kind of an offshoot of that was the heirs project, where we're trying to sometimes people have lived in homes in areas for generation upon generation, and no one's ever fixed the title to the house, or it's not transferred properly. And so we're going in, and we've gotten a large grant to help people fix that housing issue. Kind of made me think of that. But yeah, so we're out there getting referrals from everywhere, the courthouse, everywhere.
Standing on a street corner.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, we need help. Call legal aid. We need help.
Everybody says, go to legal aid. They'll help you.
Yeah, right. Who's helping you?
I know.
So the other thing, there's so much involved. I mean, that's why even when we do season 3 next year, you'll be back on, because things could be changing. But there's certain people I want every year on because it's so important. I mean, legal aid of Palm Beach County, it's massive. But there's people who are in other parts of the country who don't know even what their laws might be. Do you ever go before the courts, the judges yourself, or that's not your thing?
No, I litigate. I do generally cases that are not contested, but I do litigate cases. I'm in front of judges very, very often. So
really,
I have in my entire career. Yeah, I've been one of the, we have litigators and non-litigators in the office. So whenever there was a shortage of attorneys, being somebody that's not afraid to go to court, I would be one of the ones that would get, my boss would say, can you go help, domestic violence and do restraining orders for a few months? Sure. So
it's wonderful. I'm going to need you maybe at some point for my own personal well-being. So, but that's so really technically you're a barrister. Isn't that wonderful? A
Mhm.
litigator.
Yeah,
You're,
I have a doctor's degree. It's a Juris Doctorate. I love to tell people that. I can
that's
be
so great. But we have your information up there, which is wonderful. And the other thing besides elder, I mean, look at the disparity also. You have child abuse
Mhm.
and you have domestic violence and you have rape and then you have elder abuse. I mean, it has to be a very tentacled, a multifaceted organization because, and there's probably issues that you don't even know you could be dealing with.
And we try because I think a large part of when people contact us is trying to sort out what all of their problems are,
Yeah.
what we can help with, what we can't help with. And sometimes, like you said, they have issues and problems that we can help with that they don't even know they have. Maybe they have code enforcement violations that they've kind of ignored and that's going on, and we want to try and get those fixed so they don't lose their home. And like with the heirs project, people who just live in a house and they pay for things, but then something happens and they can't get FEMA assistance because they don't own the home, but they've always paid everything, the taxes, the mortgage, and they live in it. But then it's like, okay, now what? So yeah, a lot of times, people have issues and they don't really know they need us until they need us.
It was interesting when you said about the landscapers that you've seen them come along and question them or see that's somebody else said that they live in Miami and that's what they said. They said in their neighborhood they've absolutely seen policemen from ICE or another just agency just come and legitimately ask for documentation and haul people in. And I mean that itself is, if you're not, let's say if I mean, I don't understand it at all. No one's been able to explain it to me why this is happening the way it is. But from your perspective, how do you feel about I mean, I know how you feel about what our country's doing, but how do you, if you could say anything right now to people in our area or people around the country, what would be a nugget of hope or faith or don't give up? What would you suggest as a professional that you are and as a compassionate woman I know?
I think one of the things, outside of being a legal aid lawyer, because in my capacity of working as a lawyer for legal aid, and because we're not for profit, I can't always say what I want to say in as a representative of the organization. As Kim, the just citizen of the United States that has nothing to do with legal aid, I just tell people to, as much as we want to bury our heads in the sand and as much as it's overwhelming and we don't want to think about it and we don't want to see it because maybe it will go away if we don't pay attention, and it sometimes feels like overload. I watch the news every night. Like I watch several hours of the news because I want to know what's happening, because all I have left at this point is my vote and my voice, and I have to speak up when I see injustice, and I have to share information that I know about what's happening, and I have to encourage people to be knowledgeable, to know what's happening, to go out in your communities and speak up, go to town halls, go talk to your legislators, go use your voice. Your voice and your vote are all we have left to try and get through this and to try to, get back to some kind of sanity. This is not legal aid talking. This is Kim Enright talking. But we do see it at work on a daily basis, just having to react to everything that's happening.
I would like to see the activism that I saw in the early 90s when it comes to HIV. Mm-hmm. I think if we're getting real close to seeing.
Oh yeah. I've been out as my individual person, me, Kim, not as a legal aid employee, but I've been out to numerous rallies and protests, and it's interesting when we first started doing it, I was one of the younger people there. And it was my mom's generation and those who had been through, Vietnam and, the older generation from me that were out at these protests, which shocked me. And now as we're going further, I think more information is getting out, and now younger people are going to these rallies and these protests as well. But I do think that we will see more activism and more speaking up. And, we've talked at the Care Council meetings, not as official Care Council business, but, if you don't like what you see, you need to speak up about it. You need to reach out to your legislators and you need to say, enough is enough.
I think we're real close to seeing a tipping point,
Mm-hmm.
because the LGBTQ community is not the way it was 20 years ago. There's millions
Mm-hmm.
of people involved now. HIV is still here. And if you can't afford your meds, or even if you're on medication, I think we're at a tipping point where we're going to start seeing massive protests again, loud voices screaming from the mountaintops. And it's going to affect the elections. It's going to take its hold right in the area, because that's what you do. You don't like what's going on, you vote them out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can see with the town halls, people are going nuts there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It works. But I think we're really going to start seeing serious HIV/AIDS activism, because it is different than it was when I knew, my Jeffrey, when he was ill and all that. It was a huge motion in the early 90s.
Yep.
And then I don't know if the word complacency, that's my big word, complacency. The media doesn't talk about it. It's just the medications are handling it. So for me, complacency on every level. And I think we're getting real close to seeing ACT UP on steroids.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think the younger people who have been very complacent, who have been like, well, I'll take PrEP, or if I get infected, then I'll take the antiretrovirals. I'll be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Medicine will fix it. What's the big deal? But I think as now they are starting to see that they may not be able to get their PrEP, and they may not get their services. Now the younger people are like, oh no. I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it from them being like, actually starting to be more activist and more political, because now it is affecting them and people in their generation, where it wasn't. My generation lived through the worst of it, and they've come up in an environment where it wasn't the same and their friends weren't dying. And so they just were like, it's manageable. It's like diabetes. But now it's like, what do you mean I can't go get tested? What do you mean I can't go get my PrEP? It's like they're going to cut the funding for that, and then it becomes, okay, now it's something we need to speak up about. So I agree 100%. And I hope it's sooner rather than later.
I hope it's tomorrow that we see tens of thousands of people on every politician's doorstep screaming about everything that's happening with funding, all of this. I'm so glad I got with you finally. It takes a while to get to these. It takes a while to get to these high priority people in this world, but I'm very persistent. I mean, I have a lot of faults. I know them all. But persistence is a really good thing to have when you've got something you got to get done.
I know. I'm not easy to tie down for anything. So I'm glad we were finally able to make it work out. It's great.
Yeah, well, this program is extremely important because in many ways it's not about numbers. It is to me about numbers, but it isn't. How many lives can even this show touch tonight once we air? And we'll let you know when you're going to air, of course.
Okay.
Because it might be a little while, but again, by the time you air, we could be in a whole nother dimension.
I was going to say, probably everybody's going to be going, "What? That's a long."
You might be my first guest in season 3, really, and I'm serious about this because there's going to be a few months in between. You're going to be there, so just stay around with me. Just stay around, Toots, because we need you.
I will.
So anyway, but I just want to say in the little time we have left that I want to say thank you to Kim Rummel Enright for a magnificent, either thank you comes up again. I'm telling you, we are so prophetic in this show. Ricardo and I, we know what we're doing. As soon as I get
love
that cue, it's like 1 second before I get that cue to say thank you. I want to say thank you, Kim Enright, for a marvelous program and such information. And we know that people can get with you with K. Enright at legalaidpbc.org. Well, we had that up there. And they can always contact, there we go again, Kay Enright. And then I also just want to thank not only my guests, but the people who support us and who watch this show and are telling their friends about how important a program like this is, because we do try to keep it strictly HIV/AIDS in some way relevant. And I think we do, Ricardo and I are a very good team. Campbell Health saw that I had this need in me for a long time because their stories are out there. So find us some more stories for next year down the road. But that's what it's about. People want to talk, but give them a platform to talk. Positively positive. If you want anything involving HIV, come on. We want to hear what you have to say. So you can follow Campbell Health Solutions and Ricardo Jackson on all social media platforms. You can follow me, Susan Mintz, on my website, susanmintz.com. The podcasts are all up there from 1 year and 2 years. And just the books, everything's on my website. And follow me on social media. And representing Positively Positive, I'm Susan Mintz, and I'm always going to be committed to love.